I do not want to run you through how much of change has gone into this. Please take this to a mechanic, let them do it for you. So yep, that's the handlebar with the handlebar risers and all that. So much work has gone into the handlebar risers. Again, I don't want to talk about it. We'll definitely present this once the whole of it is done and dusted. Okay fellas, Ben back again on another one. So that's what you see. Quite obvious, isn't it? The first mod of the day. I did initially think about running you through all the steps that are involved in installing a handlebar, especially swapping a handlebar, but then as it turns out, it's just a little too complicated an affair. There's a lot of modifications and customization that has gone into this, and I would definitely not recommend all of you trying this on your own. So I just thought I would just make a video of how it is to have the handlebar setup done, and then maybe if you guys have access to a good mechanic, somebody who is also a little interested and invested in the idea of modifying things, then maybe you could just approach them and they'll do it for you. And there are a lot of things that I'll run you through, bits and pieces that you guys need to keep in mind before you decide to swap your handlebar on the 2020 BS6 Royal Enfield Himalayan. With each model, I'm starting to see a lot of things change, like the length of the clutch wire, the length of the brake hoses, and the accelerator cable, the choke cable. Everything just is a whole bunch of new cables on each model. So that being said, what you see is the KTM 390 Adventure handlebar and the Buckbuster replica knuckle guards. And interesting. So these are the first things that I've done on the bike. I would highly recommend that you guys get this done from... Yeah, the knuckle guards are a pretty straightforward fit. No big deal, except for this end and this end. If you guys can see, there is a bit of a bend here, right? So I bent this a bit. I got that angle by shoving this into between two surfaces and just cranking this. I pulled it by shoving this end into a surface, into two tight surfaces, so that I could get a bend like that, just so that it sits well. And I also kind of bent it. This was a little more straight. I bent it inwards, so it was like that. I bent it inwards so that, you know, there's a clean fit. It's a clean flush design. It doesn't stick out a bit more than it is supposed to be. So again, just a few degrees bending, a few degrees outwards will make all the difference. It'll sit well, and this can go in a bit more just by bending this. And pretty easy to bend this aluminum spine is because it's quite malleable, no big deal. And then the Buckbuster replica plastics go on like that. You guys can see clamps. So clamp 1 and clamp 2, and then there's this additional piece just so that, you know, you can raise. It's just like the VPS guards from Buckbuster. I have mine, the additional piece raised higher up, so mine is like that, whereas I've put this slightly lower on this fellow's bike. Yeah, now coming to the handlebar risers. Now again, many of you have asked me, why is it that I don't use the Art of the Motorcycle handlebar, and why is it that I use the KTM handlebar? Number one reason why I use the KTM handlebar is because this is far lighter than your stock handlebar or the Art of Motorcycles handlebar. This is at least less than half the weight of the stock handlebar. So aluminium, I believe this is 100% aluminium handlebar, number two, from the factory, KTM. So those guys would have definitely tested these handlebars in every possible way. Multiple crashes. It's not coming out of somebody's garage, or it's not coming out of some factory, which is to be, time will prove if they are trustworthy or not. So KTM and KTM handlebars, solid. Number three, this is a fat bar style handlebar. By that I mean the center is wide and towards the side it tapers. If you guys can see the difference, it's about an inch wide here, and towards the side, towards the end, it becomes 22 millimeters. So it's a fat bar style handlebar, solid strength in this area. I have tested these handlebars more than anyone else in this country. I have had these handlebars fitted to at least 20 plus Himalayans, and all of them have seen a lot of falls, and nothing happens to this handlebar. So that's another thing why I went with this handlebar. Another reason is the sweep this offers. So this is kind of a, how do you say, it's a tracker style yet street style handlebar. So there's a bit of a sweep, upward sweep, and then there's a bit of, and then there's this beautiful inward sweep. If you guys can see, it sweeps inwards and upwards. So that is very important, that you find a handlebar that kind of just makes things really comfortable for you, both on road and off road. I am not a professional off-road rider. I am not going to be only aiming at doing high-speed off-roading, and so it doesn't make sense for me to just find the most aggressive attacking handlebar and have it mounted on the bike. Rather, I would choose a handlebar that can help me do off-road and on-road effortlessly, seamlessly. So this is a handlebar with which I can cruise on the highways for hours and hours, and at the same time jump into off-road terrain and do well. Now, why do you need handlebar risers, especially this model? If you guys are listening to me, please watch all of my videos. The whole of it is because I talk a lot on individual aspects. Why handlebar risers? Why can't I mount this handlebar straight? Here, why is it that I can't mount this handlebar over here? Is because this here, the upper triple clamp, is machined to take only a 22 millimeter handlebar. It can't take a 1-inch handlebar. The cavity or the groove is only for a 22 millimeter handlebar and not a 26 millimeter handlebar. So it is important that you find yourself a handlebar riser that can accommodate a 22 millimeter and a 25 millimeter shift, that transition. So these handlebar risers are the only ones. If you were to ask me, these are the only ones as options available in the market. This part is a 22 millimeter, and towards the top it is a 25 millimeter. It can accommodate any width. So with one spacer, these aluminum bits that you see here, they are spacers. So with one spacer, these handlebar risers can take the 25 millimeter bar. With two spacers, one on top and one at the bottom, these handlebar risers can accommodate a 22 millimeter bar. So I just have only one spacer mounted, and that does the job for me. I have done this on at least 20 motorcycles by now, and they all seem to be working well without any complaints. And another thing that you guys need to keep in mind is, when you want to use a spacer to mount a wider handlebar, you will have to skive the spacer a bit. You'll have to grind the spacer on the sides and kind of take away a lot of material so that the spacer can accommodate for this wide handlebar. So when you get these handlebar risers, you will get two spacers with them. You only need one to fit this handlebar with the risers, but that one spacer also needs a bit of a modification. So you'll have to grind away a bit of the material with tools, certain tools, grinders, mini grinders that I use. I have a file. I will attach pictures of all those tools now for you to see how to go about doing things. Torque settings, how far is how good, and all that is experience. So find yourself a mechanic who can do this for you, and reroute. I mean, you'll have to route the cables differently. The choke cable and the accelerator cable, you'll have to free it up underneath the tank. So these two cables should be free underneath the tank, so that when you do lock to lock, you don't have any problems. Lock to lock. Yeah, so this is all the work that has gone into getting the handlebar riser and the handlebars in place. The handlebar in place. So there's a lot to it. It's not as easy as it seems, and I would definitely not recommend anyone, people who are new to this modifying and customizing, I would not recommend you guys try this. You would please take this to a mechanic, qualified mechanic, somebody who's also interested in modifying and the likes of it, and let them do it for you. Is because number one, the brake hose, the ABS brake hose is a little too short, so you need to know what angle, where to free up, how to reroute. There's a lot that's gone into that. The accelerator cable, again, I have rerouted it. I have pulled it up from the top, and I have gotten it to a point where there's absolutely no drag, no pull, end to end, no pull. Very important that you should be able to lock your handlebar end to end without any wire pulling. And another thing, clutch cable, no pull, no drag. I still have enough excess, so I should still end to end. I should still have about 2 to 3 millimeters of free play. And what else? Yeah, so the routing here has changed. The routing here has changed, and this is not for everyone to do. I do not want to run you through how much of change has gone into this. Please take this to a mechanic, let them do it for you. So yep, that's the handlebar with the handlebar risers and all that. So much work has gone into the handlebar risers. Again, I don't want to talk about it. We'll definitely present this once the whole of it is done and dusted, and then we'll talk about it. Well, yeah, that's the whole of it. And then where to have the controls mounted. Of course, one more thing, one last step. You'll have to mount your switch gear onto the handlebar. There is a pin in your left hand side switch gear which goes into a hole, but this particular handlebar, KTM handlebar, doesn't really have a hole on it, so you'll have to drill a hole for this switch gear to be mounted. All of this, like I said, can be figured out by a mechanic in no time. Is because they've been doing it for ages. The advantage of a pivotable style handlebar riser, these models, the model that you see here is a copy of a famous model from Rock's Risers. They make these models, and they're pretty famous. And these pivotable style handlebar risers, the advantage with them is the fact that you can adjust them in multiple positions. So you can push the handlebar risers forward and backwards, and you can also tilt the handlebar forwards and backwards with them. So you can just nail it down to the exact position where you want your handlebar to be. With all the adjustments that this has to offer, you can just get it right, the right adjustment, and for your height and your body, your ergonomics, will just work fine for you. So that's about it. The first mod, quite complex. That is why I did capture videos, multiple bits here and there, but then now when I think about it, it's better for me to tell you that you should put this job in the hands of a trusted mechanic, somebody who can do the whole of it really, really well. So that's the whole of it. I will definitely connect with you guys on the next mod, and I will maybe run you through the steps that are involved. But this, please take it to a good mechanic and they'll be able to do it for you in a jiffy. Of course, there are these bar ends too. They go on the end. I'm going to be changing them. They're a little too wide and they stick out like a sore thumb. So I'm going to get the small KTM handlebar bar ends, and they're going to be sitting here instead of these fellas. Zero vibration, no confusions, no worries. Good the way it is. So if you guys like the video, the usual drill is to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe and support the channel. The next video is definitely going to be a video where I'll walk you through the bits and pieces. See you for now. Ciao.